Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Caldo webinar about admissions. We are starting 2 minutes earlier just to go over some technical details about the platform that we are using. As most of you will know, this is a presentation that we are doing from Canada. So we are doing this presentation for our partner countries in Latin America. And regarding the internet connection, if you have a good internet connection, I would advise you to adjust the settings of the image on the right bottom side of your screen. So you will find like a mechanical wheel, and you are able to adjust the resolution. So if by any chance the image is a bit blurry, just increase the resolution to, you can go up to a maximum of 720. Or if that's too much for your internet connection, you can use the 480 instead, and you should get a very good image. During the presentation, we will not be taking any questions, so all of the questions can be asked through the chat box that you see on the right side of your screen, and we will leave the questions for the final part of the presentations. So if you have any questions, make sure that you just take notes of it, and at the end you can write them down, and we will try to answer as many questions as possible during the time that we have available. For this presentation, the goal is that we have around 60 minutes of presentation. We have for today the universities of Dalhousie, Ottawa, and Queens, and we have a small introduction about Caldo and its services. The final part, we will have around 10 to 15 minutes for questions, and you can ask questions related to any of our universities about the admission, and eventually about any program that you might be interested in. If possible, we will try to reply to the questions that you have. In terms of the video quality and the audio, if by any chance you're not able to see or listen at a certain point of the presentation, just exit and access the link once again, because sometimes it might have been a temporary glitch of the connection. So let's start with a brief overview of what will happen today in terms of content. We will go over some of the specificities of the admission process. Most of the candidates that are interested in graduate studies, and please note that today's presentation is based on graduate studies, so master and PhD studies. Sometimes they might have questions about how to go about the application and the admission process. And the goal of today's presentation is to give at least some introductory highlights as to how candidates should address the admission process. Also some tips and some guidelines as to ways of increasing your chances of admission to graduate programs in our universities. What type of documents you need to present in your admission. Also some overview about the language requirements. So if you have not done your studies in an English-speaking university previously, you will most likely have to show evidence of language proficiency. So we will address a bit about language proficiency, and also about complementary tests such as the GRE or the GMAT, mainly, which might be the programs that mostly ask for these tests. Caldo is a consortium that represents 9 Canadian universities. The universities are spread across the territory. You can see that starting from the west to the east, we have the universities of Alberta and Calgary, then the University of Saskatchewan. In Ontario, we have the universities of Waterloo, Western, Queens, and Ottawa. We have Université Laval in the French-speaking province of Quebec, and we have Dalhousie University in the province of Nova Scotia. So today we will have guests from Dalhousie, Ottawa, and Queens. Just as a brief overview of what are the Caldo services. If you have not contacted Caldo so far, Caldo is a tool that you can use in order to do 2 main things. The first thing is gather information about which type of programs our universities offer. In total, between master and PhD programs, our 9 universities offer more than 2,000 options in programs. So it can get pretty overwhelming to try to navigate all these options by yourself. So that's one of the roles of Caldo, is to assist you with making an informed decision as to what are the options that we have for your programs of interest. The second level of service that we have is a service that will enable you to get in touch with prospective supervisors for thesis-based masters and PhDs. These type of programs, they require that you secure a supervisor, and sometimes trying to get in contact with supervisors directly might not be the most efficient way. Either because the professor might not reply because he's very busy, or because you probably don't know what sort of information to send them. So once the candidate is, for example, interested in submitting an application to require funding from its country for example, a scholarship or a loan to study abroad, you are able to use the Caldo platform to gather information about the interest of prospective supervisors. We have more information about that on our website, and tomorrow you will receive a package in an email that, among other things, has more information about our services. But since today the main goal is to go and approach the admission process, I will just end this brief overview about Caldo, highlighting the contact that you can use to get in touch with us. So for any questions about graduate programs, admissions, or any sort of requirements or documentation, you can send an email to graduate.coordinator@caldo.ca. And we will be more than happy to reply to your questions. If you feel more comfortable writing to us in Portuguese or in Spanish, go ahead. It's fine. You don't necessarily need to write us in English or in French. So without any more delay, I will introduce you to Jasmine Smart. She is our representative for the university, for Dalhousie University, for today's presentation. And I would invite Jasmine to join us and to talk a bit about Dalhousie and its admission requirements and programs. So Jasmine, if you can hear me.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. So I will pass the mic, the presentation on to you, and please go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you so much, everyone who's attending today. I'm going to start with a few slides about Dalhousie and then move on to information about the application process. So we've been named the ultimate college town, one of the greenest cities in Canada, or actually the greenest city in Canada this year. And Truro, which is the home of our agricultural campus, is known as the active hub of Nova Scotia. Dalhousie was founded in 1818. We're coming up to our bicentennial, which is meaning a lot of excitement on campus. We have about 18,500 students, more than 3,300 of whom are graduate students, and over 2,600 international students from 116 countries. We have 1,080 faculty members, more than 90% of whom have their PhD or doctorate. This year, we had our 90th Rhodes Scholar announced, and we're Atlantic Canada's research leader with more than 1,000 researchers. We've also been repeatedly ranked one of the best places for researchers to work by The Scientist, and named one of the 100 most international universities in the world. We have more than 90 master's programs and 45 PhD programs and 12 faculties. Now, I know we don't have any time for questions about our programs now, so I'm going to encourage anyone with questions to ask me at the end or to visit our website or our department's websites. But for now, I'm going to move on to some information about applications. So there's a minimum GPA requirement of 3.0 out of 4.3 during your last 2 years of full-time studies. This is the minimum requirement for any admission to the university, and many departments do have higher requirements. So if you're thinking of a program, please do check directly with that department's website. There will be I know there are different scales within each country. So if the scale that your university is using does not fit well with what I have on screen, for instance, if you're on a 4-point scale in Mexico instead of a 10-point scale, feel free to send me an email, and you don't have to guess how 8 out of 10 would relate to your, 3 out of 4, or whatever it is. We also require English language test scores from anyone who has not studied and received a degree given by an English-speaking university in a country where the national language is English. So what we're looking for is an IELTS of 7, a TOEFL of 92, and we do also accept the MILAB, the CAEL, and the Pearson test of English as well. The other option is to attend the Dalhousie English for Academic Purposes program. You'd need to complete level 2 with an A- or better. And as with, one last thing about ESL, there's also higher requirements for some programs, particularly a number of thesis programs have higher ESL requirements. So again, if you know what program you're interested in, I do encourage you to look at the department website to make sure you meet the ESL requirements. All programs require reference letters. Almost all programs require 2 academic references and will also accept an additional professional reference. There are a few programs like social work that have specific requirements for their reference letters. So I know I've said this a lot, but if you know exactly which program you're interested in, do please have a look at the department's website directly. But in general, 2 academic references and 1 optional professional reference. If you want to use the e-reference system, that's the digital system, you'll need to have the university email addresses for your referees at the time that you apply. So we won't take electronic references from, Gmail accounts, Hotmail accounts, Yahoo accounts. We'll only use institutional email addresses, and you'll need to have them when you're filling out the online application form. Otherwise, we'll need a traditional reference letter written by your referee, signed in ink by your referee, put in a paper envelope that's sealed, and that the referee uses another ink signature to sign across the seal, and sent by physical mail. So if you're interested in using the EREF system, please make sure that you have the university or hospital or similar email address. If you're looking at a thesis-based program, as Paulo mentioned, if you're a sponsored student, you can use the Caldo system to look for a supervisor, and then we get in touch with the potential supervisors for you. If you aren't a sponsored student, or if you prefer to make direct contact, which is always great because that way you get to get a feel for your supervisor, as well as your supervisor getting a feel for you. The best thing you can do is, first find out whether or not the program you're applying for has you find a supervisor in advance. I did my master's at Dalhousie in philosophy, did not check this in advance, sent an email to the person I wanted to be my supervisor, and got a very embarrassing but nice email back saying that in that program, supervisors and students discuss it after the first semester. She was kind enough to be my supervisor eventually anyways, but it was a pretty embarrassing moment for me. So I do recommend checking first whether or not you need to find a supervisor in advance. If you're in the sciences or the medicines, you will need a supervisor in advance. For all other fields, my advice as usual, have a look at the department website. Now, in order to choose a supervisor, you'll want to have a very good understanding of their research. The best place to go for this, yet again, is the department website. They list all of their faculty, their recent publications, and often links to the publications. And of course, other work such as conferences. I would highly recommend having a good look at some of your top few supervisors' writing to just make sure they really are doing the work that you are most excited about. When you send an email, please be very, very direct. Just tell them right up front, I'm looking for a supervisor. I think that we would work well together because your interest in research X fits very well with my intention to work on project Y. I have these skills. I'm really excited in the work you've done in lab Z. Make it really quick. You just need a paragraph or two. And if you attach some useful information like your university transcripts, and especially your statement of intent, maybe your CV, maybe your ESL test scores, that really helps professors who often get a ton of email for a ton of different reasons. First, know why you're emailing them, and second, be able to respond as quickly as possible. So some programs, though not all, will want a statement of research intent. Again, these are normally the thesis programs. It's a very important document to the departments when they're making their decisions about which candidates to recommend for admission, because they want to make sure that they have faculty working in the right areas, that they have the correct labs, that they have the correct resources to be able to support your research. So please do tailor your statement of research interest. Make sure to identify what it is about the faculty and the supervisor that's exciting for you, and also show them what you can bring to the table. Tell them about the work you've already done, the work that you want to do. If you're unsure, it's really smart to check what the standard is for your discipline, because for some programs, for instance, the Masters of Public Administration, they are really looking to see your your story, your narrative, what it is that you want to be doing, what you bring to the table, what makes you excited about it. Whereas if you're looking at something like oceanography, they're very interested in the research you've already done, the papers you've written, and if you can provide a short perspective with citations, that's exactly the right thing to do. So if in doubt, speak to someone, perhaps a professor in your field, reach out to the graduate coordinator of the department at Dalhousie, and just see what the professional expectations are. Rule of thumb, between 1 to 2 pages, and this is really your opportunity to make your case. Show why you'll be great for Dalhousie and what Dalhousie can do for you. Some programs will also be looking for a writing sample. If they are, you'll want to check what length the program is looking for. And ideally, you're going to want to choose a writing sample that not only shows your writing skills, shows your research skills, but if you have something relevant, also highlights your sort of continued interest in the work you've already done in your area of research interest. Now, when I applied to grad school, I had been out of school for a decade. I had completely changed my area of research interest. I sent in something completely unrelated. So if you don't have a paper that perfectly matches your research question, do not worry about it. That's ideal, but it's not required. Some programs will be looking for a CV. Again, the expectations are very different depending on the program. So if you're not sure, either reach out to a current professor or to the grad coordinator of the program to which you're hoping to apply. But in general, highlight your skills, publications if you have any, and experience, and do so in sort of the formats most commonly accepted within your discipline. So if you're in business, it'll be a very standard business CV. If you're doing your PhD in a hard science, then expect to spend a lot of time looking at your papers, your conferences, other academic work. Some programs do look for a GRE or GMAT score. Before you take the test, make sure that the programs you're applying to do require it. And if you are going to take one of these 2 tests, just leave yourself lots of time to study, to get the test results, and potentially to write again if relevant. And some programs do have other supporting documents. I think I mentioned social work once before, but they also have an additional worksheet. So does computer science. They have a worksheet that just asks you to detail exactly what computer science courses you've taken and a little bit about them. So most of the other supporting documents that a program would be looking for are very department specific. So yet again, have a look at their website. I sound like a broken record, I know. And hopefully this will be the last time I say this, but have a look at the department website to find the mailing address, because you'll be sending all of your supporting documents directly to the department to which you're applying. And once you have all of the supporting documents ready, you can apply online. You can, of course, also apply on paper. You can download the paper application from the same site, but I highly recommend the online form, which you can find right on our website. So the process: you'll submit your application, pay the $100 application fee. Make sure your references are received either via the e-reference system or directly from referees in sealed envelopes straight to the department. And you'll send all of the required supporting departments to your department. Especially important are going to be official transcripts. So make sure that you have the official transcripts from all of your university or other post-secondary programs. So after we have all of your documents, the review process will begin with the department. The department graduate administrator will sort of make sure that your file is complete. They'll be the person that you're hearing from. And then it will go to the department graduate admissions committee. That's a committee normally made up of the administrator and some faculty members, often the department graduate coordinator. When they've made their decision, and different departments do have different processes, some have rolling admissions, some sort of wait to get all of the applications and make the decision all at once for which the most qualified candidates are. Once they've recommended the candidates for admission, they will forward the recommendation to me at the Faculty of Graduate Studies, and I will make sure that you meet all of the requirements that I've mentioned so far. So thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for joining the webinar, and Paulo, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Yasmin. One other thing that I will ask you to just make a note, because I was just recalling this, is the admission deadlines. So as most of you know, some programs have admission deadlines that are a bit different for international students than for domestic students. So Jasmine, I don't know if there's any sort of rough guideline that we can basically tell people what are usually the admission deadlines if they want to start in September or if they want to start in January for Dalhousie.
I'm afraid this is going to be one more. Have a look at the department website. You can also find that on our website. That's the Faculty of Graduate Studies. For September, the most common deadline is January 15th, which I know is coming up quickly, but that's also the deadline to be considered for funding. Especially sponsored students, those bringing their own funding, don't need to have their names in for the scholarship consideration. So may be able to do a later application deadline. The very latest application deadline is the beginning of April, but not every department will consider international students for that late deadline, especially because the visa process may take some time. And of course, with students who are looking for funding, the January 5th deadline is absolutely the best one, except where department websites say otherwise.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Jasmine. Just a quick note before going to Ottawa. You are writing your questions. I can see, but please note that our guests are only able to answer the questions at the end of the presentations. So for anyone that is having issues with the graphic aspect of the presentation, once again, on the bottom right side of the screen, you have a wheel, like one of those mechanical wheels, and if you click there, you are able to adjust the resolution. So now moving on to the University of Ottawa. From the University of Ottawa, Kyle was kind enough to volunteer to be here today. And I will now pass the presentation on to Kyle. So thank you, Kyle, and please go ahead.
Thanks, Paolo. Welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Kyle, as Paolo said, and I work in the international office of the University of Ottawa, specifically with sponsored students, but I'm here to help with general admissions as well. So first, I'll start by speaking a little bit generally about the University of Ottawa and why you might want to consider it. First of all, we are located right downtown in Ottawa, which is in fact the capital city of Canada. Unlike some misconceptions, Toronto or Vancouver or Montreal is not the capital. It is Ottawa where we are located. You can in fact see the Parliament of Canada from the university campus. So we're right downtown, great connections to the rest of the city. We are also the world's largest French-English bilingual university. Means is that most of our programs are available in English and in French, but you choose the language. If you want to study 100% in English, that's okay. If you want to study 100% in French, that's okay too. But of course, we encourage you to work on your second language. So you can hopefully, by the time you're done studying here, graduate being fully bilingual in French and English, and also have your Spanish, Portuguese, or other languages you speak. We are ranked among the top 300 universities in the world. Among French-speaking universities, we are in fact among the top 20. So we are quite well ranked. Within Canada itself, we're one of the top 10 research-intensive universities. We're quite large with about 42,000 students in total, meaning we are able to offer quite a large number of courses. There's lots of activities for you to do. It's really a great place. It's a safe place, affordable place to live and complete high-level studies and research. In terms of our program offering, we have more than 200 undergraduate programs, but in terms of graduate studies, we have over 185 of them in English and in French, spread over 9 different faculties. You can see the list of the faculties right there. Some of the highlights include our Faculty of Social Sciences. It's a very strong faculty. We're located, as I mentioned, right in the capital city. We have great connections to government agencies, NGOs, private enterprise. It allows for some great connections to be made and great research opportunities in the social sciences. Arts, we offer great linguistics programs, especially being bilingual. As you can imagine, that leads to some great research opportunities. Business, very good connections with private companies as well as other types of organizations. We have a faculty of education if you are interested in pursuing a deeper knowledge of pedagogy and leadership. Engineering, this is a very large faculty for us. Excuse me, for us. It is in fact one of our most international faculties with a very large number of international students, and our professors are very keen to work with international students in engineering and in the other faculties. We have some very strong computer science elements. You can add computer science to a number of degrees, and we have some great research facilities. We're in fact we just completed an advanced research center that allows you to do great works in photonics. We are in fact one of the top 5 universities in the world for work in photonics. So if you're interested in fiber optics, things like this relating to light, we're a great choice. We also have one of 3 Max Planck Institutes located outside of Germany. So we have a lot of cutting edge research going on here. We have Faculty of Health Science, which is different than medicine. So if you can do traditional medicine research work, or you can do health sciences, touching on nutrition, kinesiology, how the body works. We have law. This is a rather unique faculty at the University of Ottawa because we offer 2 different systems of law. Here in Canada, we have 2 systems of law across the country. We have common law and we have civil law. Civil law is most commonly practiced in in Quebec, here in Canada, in France, and in many Latin American countries. Common law is practiced in the other provinces of Canada. It comes from the UK, and it's commonly found in a lot of English-speaking countries. The benefit of doing graduate research, graduate studies in law here at the University of Ottawa is that you have access to great facilities and great resources in both legal traditions. This gives you great preparation for international law and working with practitioners from both systems. And I'm jumping around the list here, but finally, science. We have a very strong science program. If you want those core science research programs, that we have a great faculty of science. Our bioengineering, biomechanical engineering programs are very strong, and you can combine a lot of research in the science faculty with research being done in the engineering faculty in particular. We do encourage you to between the faculties and really tap the resources available all across the university. For more information about any of these programs, I do encourage you to go to grad.uottawa.ca. It's a great, simple site to start doing your research about programs, but as well as the overall admission process. Now, before I jump into the actual admission requirements, a big question everyone always has is scholarships and finances. So I'll address this right away. Perhaps our biggest funding opportunity available to the largest number of students is if you study in French. This is, we are encouraging and we want greater diversity among our international students who study in French. Of course, we would still love to have you in English, but there's a great scholarship available if you are able to study in French. At the undergraduate level, if you do the majority of your classes in French, you will only pay the domestic rate of tuition. That's much cheaper than the normal international tuition. At the graduate level, the same discount applies. You will end up paying the same tuition as a Canadian student instead of the higher international tuition. However, the requirements are a little bit more strict. In order to be eligible for this program, you have to be admitted into a program that is only available in French. We only have a couple of those in health sciences and in social work, for example. Or if you are in a bilingual program that's available in English, you must have already studied in French, essentially, and then take your classes in French once you arrive here. The essence of this is we want to ensure that all our students basically have French in their heart and are committed to diversifying the the Francophone community on our campus. In terms of other scholarships we do offer a number of undergraduate scholarships, but at the graduate level, different faculties offer some funding. I do want to emphasize that none of our scholarships will be 100%. None of them will cover 100% of your tuition and 100% of your living expenses. They are given on a competitive basis. You don't need to apply separately. You simply apply for your program, and at the same time, we will consider you for these scholarships, for these graduate funding opportunities. I do want to mention again, it's competitive. Moving along now to the admission requirements. I'm going to speak rather generally, but as Jasmine was mentioning, it is necessary to check the specific requirements for specific programs. And that's true here at the University of Ottawa as well. Of course, I can help direct you to those specific requirement pages if you're having trouble finding it. In terms of admission equivalencies, grades that are the minimum level required to enter our master's programs, you'll see some of the grades for different Latin American countries on your screen. These again are minimum. They're not guaranteeing that you will be admitted if you have these grades. It simply means that when we receive all our applications, we really won't be able to accept you if you have lower than this, regardless of how many applicants we get. If we have many, many applications, the overall grades that people have will, of course, be higher because it is done competitively. Again, for the doctoral programs, the grades are a little bit different. You can see the requirements there. If you have questions about this, I will be very happy to help find what you're looking for. There is a website, a page on our website where you can find the exact minimum requirements based on your country. I do want to emphasize, though, that when it says the country, that is not your citizenship. It is the country where you did your studies. So even a Canadian student who studied in one of these countries, they would be held to the same academic standards, based those minimum requirements from that country, not the Canadian system. We do recognize there are different systems around the world. For language requirements, I do want to take this time to mention we are bilingual. You are able to choose English or French for your studies, but when you apply for any of our programs, you only need one test. Do not worry about submitting multiple English tests, French tests. You do not need both. Even if you want to study in both languages, you only need to prove one. On your screen, you'll see the minimum requirements for various English tests for the undergraduate level. Now, I put these up here because these ones are a good minimum guideline. The minimum English requirements for master's and doctorate programs depends, again, on the program, and you will have to check the specific program to see what the minimums are. However, as a general guideline, the requirements tend to be the same or higher than the undergraduate level. So I shared these numbers with you to give you an idea of the type of level that we're looking for. Similarly, if you are stronger in French, please submit a French test. Even if you do want to do some of your studies in English, just choose which language is strongest for you. So if you are stronger in French, you can submit one of these French tests. The same conditions apply. You submit one test. This is the minimum requirement for undergraduate. It may be required that you have a higher level for graduate studies, but this is a good guideline. One thing I will mention about graduate studies is that, especially at the doctorate level, it will really be your supervisor who will determine whether your English or French is high enough. When you are contacting your potential supervisors, it's always good to set up a Skype conversation so that your professor can see how is your language. In some cases, we may be able to have some flexibility on language ability if your supervisor agrees to work with you on your level that you have. Now, finding a thesis supervisor. This is very similar to what Jasmine was saying at Dalhousie. We have a similar process here at the University of Ottawa. For many of our programs, you will need a supervisor in advance, but it's not always required. It can be a very good idea. Even in programs where it's not required, it can strengthen your application if you have the advisor in advance, because you've already secured kind of a friend here at the university. Now, when you do contact supervisors, it's very similar to what Jasmine was saying. Please make sure that you put all of your information in your initial email. Write formally, include copies of your transcripts, any academic work you've done. Really introduce yourself, explain why you want to work with that professor. Why did you choose him or her and not someone else? What have you done in the past that would prepare you to do that work? And also, if you are applying for sponsorship from your country, for example, if you're in Mexico, CONACYT, Coleciencias in Colombia, any of these large scholarship programs from your country, mention that in your contact with the professor. Even if you do not have the scholarship yet, it can attract their attention because it shows you're ambitious, prepared, organized, and it also shows a little bit of potential security or financial backup on your part, so they don't have to worry about making sure you're supported fully, because you're potentially coming with that support. This is something that you want to do well in advance, contacting potential supervisors. It can take some time. Don't be discouraged if they do not respond in one day. They have received many emails, so you want to give them be patient, but similarly, make sure your emails are very clear. You want them to understand what you're asking. Now, when you are applying, you will apply online, and most of your elements of your application will be done online. You will submit all the form, you will submit your CV, you will submit your letter of intent. You will also have your references submit their essentially letters of recommendation electronically directly to the university. You can see the website on your screen there. That is where you can go to start the application process. Do apply well in advance for sure. It takes some time to fill everything out, send in all the documents. For the most part, we don't require a lot of original documents, but in some cases we do. Notably, your transcripts. You will have to submit your original transcripts from your previous university studies. We can't take PDFs or scans. We can't take photocopies. We do need the originals sent by mail to us. And if they are not in English or in French, you will need to have them officially translated. The translation must accompany the original transcript. You can, as I mentioned, you can translate into English or French, whichever is available to you where you are. You will also need to submit original copies of your language test. Whether that's IELTS, TOEFL, in French, DELF, you'll have to submit the original results of those tests as part of your application. Oh, sorry, I jumped the gun a little bit here. You will need to submit those documents I was saying. This slide, you will see a link. This is a bit long, so I can certainly share this with you if you want to get in touch with me afterwards. That page is a good place to go to find the specific requirements for your program, including the deadlines. The deadlines for the various programs differ. Generally, for arts and social sciences related programs, the deadline is earlier. But you may not need a supervisor in advance. For science, engineering, medicine, the deadline is a little bit later. Generally, for engineering and sciences, the deadline is March 1st in order to start in September. For some of the arts and social science programs, in some cases, the deadline may have already even passed in December. Some of them are coming up as early as January 15th in 3 days. Some of them are later on at the end of January, in February. It is important to check the deadline for your specific program. In some cases, it may be possible to offer flexibility on the deadlines, especially if you are coming with funding from your sponsor in your country. It may be possible to offer some flexibility, but similar to what Jasmine was saying at Dalhousie, really, April is the latest you should realistically be working on at all, simply because of visa requirements. We will do our best if it is possible to accommodate you, but this is not something you should plan for. Please do respect the deadlines. It really does strengthen your application and increase your chances. When you do submit your application, you will receive a receipt of your application. You'll notice there I put a note saying there may be delay of a week. This is because we recently transitioned to a new database system just about a month or two ago, and it's causing some delays in getting these confirmation emails sent. So if you do submit your application and you don't immediately receive that email, please don't worry. I would also like to mention that in Ontario, the province where we are located, when you do submit an application, you will initially submit your information via a centralized service called UAC, or OUAC, and this funnels the information. It's not overly important you know this, but in some cases, if you pay the application fee by credit card, you may be wondering what that item is. It won't state University of Ottawa necessarily. So I just want to let you know that. We will also keep you updated about your process online. We will not send you any physical documents. This means that if there's anything missing from your file, we will let you know via email and post it on your account that is created after you apply. Similarly, if you are admitted, or any response we give regarding your application, it will be given online. We will not send a letter in the mail. So please don't be waiting and waiting for that physical letter. Finally, if you want to have a little bit more information specifically for international students, not just about applications and admissions, but about general life here in Ottawa and preparing to come to Ottawa from abroad, you can visit the International Office website at international.uottawa.ca. Finally, I would like to explain a little bit about our Sponsored Students Program. This is specifically where I work, and the role of this program is to help you with your sponsorship coming from your country. Of course, it's not required that you have sponsorship in order for me to help you. I'd be very happy to help in any way I can, but my primary role is to make sure that your sponsorship and your application and your studies here at the University of Ottawa go well, and that there aren't any problems in any regard regarding your sponsorship. Finally, this is my email address up there. It's sponsoredstudents@uottawa.ca. That's also the phone number and fax number for the international office. I am not always here. Sometimes I visit your countries or other countries for recruitment or other purposes. So I'm not always personally available to answer your questions by phone, but ideally what you would do is if you send an email, we can arrange a time to Skype or phone if that would work for you. Please feel free to send any questions. I'm somewhat of a generalist, but I'm here to help in any way I can. If there's a question I don't know, I can refer you to the appropriate service and appropriate person here at the University of Ottawa. So thank you very much, everyone, and I hope to receive your questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kyle. We are now going to go to Kingston, to Queen's University, where Colette will be doing a presentation on the same topics that we have been discussing so far. So Colette, if you can listen to me, please.
Yes,
go ahead, and thank you so much for being here. Hello, Colette, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes,
yeah.
Perfectly. Go
okay,
ahead.
Great. All right, well, good day, everyone. My name is Colette from Queens, and I apologise for my voice. I've just got back from Australia, so being from the Southern Hemisphere like you all, I've come from the very hot back to the very cold. So one of those things that if you manage to make it up here to Canada, you're going to have to get used to the colder weather in winter. So I want to go through some slides pretty quickly because I know I don't want to keep you here for too long. But Queens is in the city of Kingston, which is actually in a pretty good location because we're 3 hours east of Toronto, 2 hours south of Ottawa, 3 hours west of Montreal, and only a couple of hours from the US. So actually 30 minutes to get across the border. So we're pretty well centralized in Ontario. Next one, please. So a little bit about Kingston. Kingston is a fantastic little city. It's very historical. In fact, we were the first capital of Canada before it all got changed around. And we have been ranked in the top 5 from the British Broadcasting Commission as being one of the best university towns in the world. So we're pretty happy about that. And we are actually situated on the shores of Lake Ontario, one of those great big lakes that we do have up here in Canada. Now, Queen's was actually founded in 1841 under Royal Charter from Queen Victoria in England. So we actually, unlike the rest of our colleagues throughout the country, we have a principal and not a president. Just thought I'd chuck that in there for you, a little bit of fact finding for you. And we are the earliest degree granting institution in the United Province of Canada. We currently have 21,000 students, full-time students, and out of those, it's about 17.5 of those are the undergrad and the rest of the graduate. So research at Queen's is significant for us, as it is with all our colleagues across the country. And one thing about Canada, we're very fortunate to have some great universities for research, and Queen's is one of what they call the U15, which is the University Intensive Top 15 Research Institutions. So we're very pleased to be a part of that. And Queen's constantly ranks in the first or second in the number of awards and prizes that are given to our full-time faculty, which is important for you if you're coming into grad studies, because often it's those faculty that'll have the money to help with funding options and things down the track. And Queen's does invest, or we're having external investment in research exceeding $148 million, and that was just in 2015, and it's higher now. Now, part of research, we have a couple of areas, Innovation Park and Partech Innovations, which for those that may be in particular the STEM disciplines or in the health sciences, these are opportunities for you to work with both research with community groups, organizations, government departments, and things like that, both on various research that can then hopefully be used within the global world as we know it today. So things that then you can patent later and all those sorts of things. So that's really, really great. Next, please. So we do have a lot of research centres, as you can see, whether it be in defence policy, energy and power, geoengineering, veteran affairs and military. The Cancer Research Institute is very big here, as the Canadian Cancer Research is situated here in Kingston. Centre for Neurosciences is also another big one, as well as fuel cell research. Now, these are obviously very STEM disciplined, but we do have a lot of research going on in the humanities and social sciences, such as our surveillance project. Thank you. So our main website for the School of Graduate Studies at Queen's is as on the website there, queensu.ca/SGS, which stands for the School of Graduate Studies. And there's just a little bit of a picture there of some of the things that our students can be doing during their time here. Now, we have over 120 degree programs, graduate programs that is, in the areas of health or life sciences, engineering and applied science, mathematics and physical sciences, social sciences, there's various professional schools, and there was also the humanities. So we have a plethora of opportunities for you to come and do research here at Queen's. Now, we do have both professional degree programs in our masters, and as well as the research base. And the professional degree programs are usually the 1-year programs, whereas the research-based masters are usually the 2-year programs. Then, of course, we do have our doctoral route, which is usually takes 4 to 5 years to complete your PhD, depending on how good you are, I guess, and getting your timelines in order. There is opportunities for an accelerated route to the PhD in some programs, which means basically you start off in your master's, and we call it like a mini master's, where if you're doing well as you're going along within the first 6 months, we then will ask you, would you like to accelerate straight into the PhD? Which means you won't get a master's, but you've gone straight to the PhD route from there. So you're doing things a little quicker than you would. We also do have guaranteed funding for our research graduate students, and I do have to highlight that it is not for our professional programs, it is for our research-based programs, and there's lots of different things there that you can look for as an international student. If you're a PhD student coming in, there is the minimum guarantee of $18,000 a year. Plus, on top of that, you'll have what we call an international tuition award, which is another $5,000 to help offset the increase in the international student tuition. We're trying to get you back to what the domestic students pay. Now, they're just the minimums. There are some, in terms of masters, if you're research-based, depending on your program, would depend on what the research funds that you will get from that particular program, which be made up of internal awards, Queen's Graduate Awards, being perhaps a teaching assistant and things like that. Now, on top of that, I've noticed people were kind of asking what else is available for international students coming. And here in Canada, there are some things. If you're in an Ontario university, there's an opportunity for international PhD students to apply for the Ontario Trillium Scholarship. And then there's, even with the Ontario Graduate Scholarships, each university in Ontario is given a certain number of what we call OGS scholarships. And out of that, we can allocate a certain amount to international students. Not as much, of course, as if we would allocate to domestic. Also at Queen's, we have for the PhD Principal's International Doctoral Award, which is also something that you could be put forward to, and it's basically based on your academic excellence. So they're just some of the things that you might want to consider, because coming overseas is never cheap, of course, so you want to make sure that you've got enough funds to help you while you're here. Okay, so the numbers, numbers, yes, sorry. This is a bit more fact-finding. I'll let you read that because, I mean, I'm very conscious of the time for you all, but just keep in mind some of those things, that we do have very high completion rates at Queen's University. That our aim is to get you through. We don't want people withdrawing. We want to help you get through. Now, we have over 4,000 graduate students. Now, that does include some of our professional programs, which is 18% of our total Queen's enrollment. Like I said, we've got the highest degree completion rates, and over 90% of our students report a quality of their academic experience as good to excellent. And of course, mentorship is huge at the graduate level, particularly in the research. So as my colleagues have mentioned previously, finding the correct supervisor is super, super important. Our students do come from 72 countries. 20% of our graduate population is from outside of Canada. Now, to become a successful part of the Queen's community, so this is how you get to prepare for a successful application. And a lot of what some of the things that my colleagues have said hold true to Queen's as well. But it is very, very important, whatever you do, whatever school you're thinking of, is really go to their graduate studies website and look at the program information, because that's where you're going to get at least the first part or the first inkling of what that program is about. It will discuss things like their research fields, potential supervisors and what they're doing, application deadlines, application requirements, the contact person for more information. And, you know, it's that contact person, which is usually what we call their graduate assistant. They become your BFF, you know, your best friend forever, because they're the ones that know exactly what's going on in your particular program. So if you have questions, it's really, really important to get to know that person. Now, from those individual pages, there is also a link then to the actual program specific website, which of course will give you a lot more information on each of the faculty members that are available for research and exactly what is going on in that particular department. You also want to understand both the university and program admission requirements, because they can be slightly different. The university has minimum requirements and the program may have additional information or requirements that they want. So it's very, very important to check each one individually to make sure you've got the minimum from the university, and then what else does that particular program require. And I'll go through some of that a little bit in a moment. Like I said, contact the program about finding a supervisor. As my colleagues have said, that is Very, very important. Now, it is also important that not every program requires you to get a supervisor before you start. There are some master's programs in research that will help you find the correct supervisor once you're here in that first term. So once again, you need to check, what does that program require? Do you need to find a potential supervisor beforehand, or is it something you can look at after? Now, I'm saying that because you are international students, it is extremely important that you let people know of your interest, and in particular the kind of research that you want to do, not just the program you want to be a part of, but the kind of research that you want to do, and potentially who you would like to work with and why. And so if you are contacting a supervisor, make sure you've done some homework. After you've looked at the pages and what they're doing, write to them and say, you know, I am keen to come to Canada. I'm keen to come to Queen's or whichever university you choose. I am very interested in what you've been doing. I've been looking at your website, and that's really along the lines of what I want to do. Is there a chance for us to have a chat together to look at my options of coming to Queen's? So you can do that either directly to a potential supervisor, or you can ask a similar question through that graduate assistant who can then put you in contact with the right person. It is important that they know the area that you're looking at, which is why you need to do some homework too. And as my colleagues mentioned, if you have a scholarship or you have applied for a potential scholarship from your own country, let them know, because that does make you look a little bit more attractive, because any funds that you can bring in helps us too on our end to make sure that you're going to have enough for what you need while you're here in Canada. We do have an online application, and unlike what my colleagues have said, our application is not done through a central organisation. It is done directly at Queen's. So our application comes directly to us. And once again, you need to check the documentation required, and most importantly, check departmental deadlines, because most of our deadlines are between January 1 and March 1, except psychology, which is December 1. And so each department is slightly different. As an international student, what you need to be aware of, the sooner you can get an application in, the easier it is for them to have a look at you early and then give you time, should they wish to make you an offer, to get your visa sorted out so you can start at the correct time. Most of our programs start in the September, but we do have some programs that will start in January or May, usually the STEM disciplines, because of sometimes there's been visa issues, and they also have programming that allows you to start a little bit later if need be. So how to apply? As I mentioned, online directly to the School of Graduate Studies. We do need 2 official transcripts from your school translated into English, so they can be sent directly to us. We need 2 academic references, and what you do on your application, there's a place for you to write down who you want to be your academic references and to put their email, and we will send them the form that we need them to complete for us, and then they send it directly back to us. What is important is when you're going through the application process, remember your application number, because you can go back in all the time to check on your status, and by that I mean is, have we received everything that you need to have a full application, including the application fee, which is 105 Canadian dollars. So if, for instance, you think everything's in, you can go back and see one of your references has not sent it in yet. You can then maybe go and ask that referee, would you mind, they haven't received it yet, maybe just ask them politely, have you sent it? And if they say yes, we can find out why we haven't received it yet. So that's important. English language testing is extremely important. Unless you have done an undergraduate degree or a graduate degree in English and can prove that you've done it all in English, we can waive it for that. Otherwise, you are required to do one of our English language tests, and there's several which I'll show in the next slide after this, of which ones we accept. Now, there are some programs, as I mentioned, that require supplementary requirements. There are two programs that require the GRE, the Graduate Record Exam, and that is our psychology program and our management, Master of Science and PhD in Management. So they do require it. Management also requires the GMAT. So the rest of them do not require any extra testing. Some programs will, however, require additional references or writing samples or portfolios or professional references. So once again, check to see what are the requirements for that particular program. One thing that I haven't, that's okay, we can stay there. That's it, we can stay there. As I mentioned, apply early because they do have different application. If you want to be considered for the full funding package possible, you do need to get it in by the deadline at the latest that the program has offered, because we at the School of Graduate Studies start allocating funds as of March 1. So we need to get things in early if you want to be considered. One thing I didn't say, most of our programs in terms of academic requirements are looking for a 4-year bachelor's degree with a minimum of 7. I'm going to put it in percentages because our GPA is different again. So a minimum of 70 to 73% of our grading. But on saying that, a majority of our programs up it to what we say is a B+, which is like 77%. So once again, check those academic requirements. Yep. Yep. Done all that. Okay, so language requirements. 1 year at a university with academic English instruction. If you can prove that you've done that, you need to let us know, and then we could potentially waive that requirement. Otherwise, we accept IELTS, the PTE, MELAB, and TOEFL. If you do not meet one of those, then there is an opportunity for you to work with our Queen's School of English and do what was called ESLA 150 of the English for Academic Purposes program. If you get an A- in that, that will help push you through, and that will help you a lot. Now, one of those things, if you're looking for funding from your own government, you may want to see if part of that funding is additional English language training, because then they can pay it for you rather than you'd have to pay for that yourself. Thank you. So as I mentioned, the Queen's School of English will have a conditional admission for international students from South America coming through Caldo, where there's funding, some of the funding required. So they're the minimum IELTS or equivalent that we're looking for. And once again, the A-. But if you go on the Queen's School of English with that website there, they will be able to give you more information on that. The last thing that I'd like to say, because you've heard a lot today, and I said I'm conscious of your time, is at Queen's and a lot of our universities here in Canada, as I said, we want you to succeed. So if you get here, we want you to succeed. So we have a lot of services here for you, both for academic support and professional development to help you on your way when you complete your degree. Academically, a lot of the things that we do, we have a lot of writing support. We have various dissertation writing retreats, and I must say we get a lot of our international students signing up for this, an opportunity to just put your head down and write without having the distractions of the mobile phone and the internet and your labs and your teaching assistant roles and things like that. We also do a lot with career development as you're going along. So just keep this in mind again, as when you're coming to a Canadian school, there's a lot of things that we can do to help support you while you are here. And that's it for me. That was pretty quick, I know. However, if you email grad.studies@queensu.ca there, we have my colleagues here at the front desk at the School of Graduate Studies who are happy to help answer any questions. If they are program specific, it would be advisable to, once you've spoken to us then, go directly to that program for more information, particularly, as I said, that graduate assistant who will be your BFF. But please, if nothing else, if you're not sure where else to go, come to us at the School of Graduate Studies, and we'll do whatever we can to help you understand how it works here at Queen's, what you need to do to come here if you want to, and hopefully you will down the track perhaps consider Queen's University. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Colette, and thank you to the three of you. Let's now move quickly to the question and answer period, and I would jump in with trying to answer some of the general questions that you have been asking, and I would ask our guests to jump in if in the case of their university it's a bit different. So at Caldo, like I said, we represent nine Canadian universities. So the answers that I will be giving are general answers to most of the universities that we represent. So the first thing that I would like to mention is the following. Tomorrow, you will receive an email with specific information on this presentation. So you will receive the video, and you will receive links that will give you access to information on how to write a statement of research, information from the immigration website from Canada, and general information about the programs of our university. So these three different topics will be covered in the resources that we will send you. Now, I saw that some questions that you were asking can be more specific, and we will try to go through some of them in this last 10 minutes that we have. So one of the things that I noticed was the fact that some of you were asking if you can apply if you don't yet have the TOEFL or the IELTS, meaning if you don't yet have the language test. One of the things that exists at most of our universities and in most programs is the option of receiving a conditional admission letter, meaning that the admission letter is issued based on the assumption that there are still aspects that you need to fulfill. And language is one of those aspects. So if by any chance you do not yet meet the minimum requirement, or you do not yet present proof or evidence of the necessary language test, eventually the department can still issue you a conditional letter based on the fact that you will need to present that before starting your studies. One other thing that people were asking here, and for that I would ask our guests to jump in, is if you are admitted to a particular starting date, so for example for September, but you don't receive the scholarship at the time of starting studies, if you are eligible to apply to a later starting date, so for example January, without the need to do another application. So I would ask our colleagues to try to clarify what happens in these cases. So Jasmine, if you could start, please.
Yes. In general, it's possible to defer once for up to 1 year. But I know I've said this a million times, but it's also dependent on availability within your department. So the general policy is, yes, you can defer once for up to a year. But for instance, if you apply for occupational therapy, they have an insanely complex process because they have allocated number of seats according to provinces as well as countries. So the answer for them is no asterisks. So call it generally a yes, but if you have any doubt, please do get in touch with your prospective department.
Okay. For Queens and Ottawa, would be the same logic? They can sort of have an additional starting date based on the application that they did previously?
Here in Ottawa, in principle, no. We don't normally do deferrals as a standard policy. However, as with many cases, we can sometimes offer flexibility. If there's a particular reason for the deferral and the supervisor is willing to accommodate it, and the particular courses that you would have to take at the beginning of your program would allow a later start, then we may be able to do it, but it is done on a case-by-case decision.
Okay.
Yeah, and everyone, that's similar to Queen's as well. We normally don't do deferrals. The only reason we would sort of let you start at a later date, which may be a January or May, is because your visa has been held up. unless that was what, so that's the kind of thing that we look at. But as usual, there's always exceptions, but in general, no.
Okay, so just to be totally sure, if when deferrals are not possible, the person needs to go back to stage 1 of the application and do it all over again?
Correct.
Okay, but for example, if the university already has the documents, can they be reused?
That's a good question. Normally not. Normally we have to get them again because we will be asking for new references and everything.
Okay.
That's similar at University of Ottawa as well. We don't keep the documents all on file. However, your supervisor would likely still be willing to work with you, and that greatly speeds up the second application process.
That's correct, because a lot of things get shredded, you say, because of confidentiality.
Okay, I understand. So one other thing that people are asking here is about the scholarship process, mainly receiving admission letter to present to the sponsor agency. So from experience, and also another thing that Caldo can give you some guidelines is about the scholarships. In general, when the scholarship and mostly all of them request the admission letter, some of them are willing to, at the early stage of the admission, to accept conditional letters. So meaning that if you have a letter from the university stating that you still need to provide evidence of language, or if you need to still provide evidence that you will be receiving the scholarship, usually that's good enough for the scholarship agency to consider you for the scholarship. Now, another thing that you were asking is about the original documents. So from what I understand, and once again, I would ask our guests to jump in if this is not exactly accurate for their case. In most of the cases, transcripts need to be sent from your own university in your own country to the university in Canada. Some people have contacted me saying that in certain universities that is difficult, and I can understand. So some of our universities have said that the alternative is for them to put the documents in an envelope, seal it, and sign it on the wing of the envelope where the envelope gets sort of glued. So that there is evidence that the package was not opened by after it has been closed. So if the process is any different from any of our universities, please let us know. But from what I understood, this was a sort of a general procedure that was acceptable for everyone.
Yes, that would be generally accurate for University of Ottawa as well.
Okay.
Good for Queens.
Same for us.
Okay. Yeah. So overall, you will always need to get some original documents and send them by regular mail, just to make sure that the admission process is finalized. In regards to the language tests, you will have them sent directly from the place where you took the test. So IELTS and sorry, the agency that runs IELTS and TOEFL, they have automatic procedures that when you provide the code of the university, they send the results automatically. That is usually how it works. Further options would need to be confirmed with the universities, but in most cases, this is how most people do it. Let me now go back to the questions, because I noticed that while we were presenting, a lot of questions came up. Some people were also asking questions about scholarships at our university. So the representatives from our universities touched the point of scholarships. One important thing that it's relevant to keep in mind is that obviously a lot of people are looking for scholarships, so it's a very competitive process. Mostly based on academic merit, relevance of research, previous research experience that the candidates have. However, one of the great things about our universities is that the professors have research funding that they can allocate to students. And even if that doesn't cover all of the costs of your studying abroad, it's a huge financial help that you will be receiving. Once again, this is attributed based on different aspects, and from experience and from what I know so far, it is probably the the most recurrent way of receiving financial assistance from our universities. We have other scholarships that are usually assigned by the government of Canada, but some of them have requirements that, for example, already require that you are studying in Canada and are referred to the scholarship because you are doing some work that it's worth of a specific scholarship. And usually these tend to be very generous scholarships, so it's not very easy to obtain them. While I'm looking for other questions, please, if anyone would like to jump in with any comment, go ahead.
Sure. We have scholarships available generally only for our research programs, not for our professional programs, as my colleague said. We do have the Nova Scotia Graduate Scholarship. Dalhousie is fortunate enough to get about 90% of those. They are not enough to live on. They're about $10,000 a year, but there are a good number of them. Like all of our scholarships, they are competitive. About the only scholarship we have that pays 100% of all costs is the Killam, but we're one of only 5 Killam universities, and we have the only Killam Masters scholarships. Now, the Killams are extremely competitive, so you're going to need to be at least in the top 2 or 3%, and even then there's a little bit of luck involved. But if you're Killam eligible, please do talk to your graduate coordinator about it, because that's about the only full ride scholarship we have. Otherwise, have a look at our website. We have quite a few scholarships, some specifically for international students, some available to international and Canadian. And those are going to be all the ones that have the purple asterisks. And unfortunately, we also have some that are only available to Canadian students. We also have some FGS allocations, and of course the usual TA ships, RA ships, just like everyone else.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. One other question that I noticed that was written a while ago was, which type of professors can be supervisors? So one of the things that that we at Caldo assist you is to direct you to the web page where you can find the profile of the professors. When you use our services, and the services are free, you don't need to pay for consulting us. You are able to get information on where you can find those profiles. So please feel free to send us an email if you're feeling that you're not getting to the information that you require. Because we certainly understand that sometimes it can be overwhelming to look for information in different websites from very different universities. Also, another thing that people were asking was, how long does it take to get a reply from a supervisor? Based on experience, and once again, this is a rough guideline in terms of time frame. You should expect at least three weeks before you receive some specific reply from supervisors. Professors are not always available. They might be traveling, they might be dealing with the exam period or other professional commitments. So it might not be that you will be receiving feedback from them directly. And also another good thing to do is the following. Even when you use the Caldo platform to contact supervisors, like my colleagues were saying, it's always a good idea just to send an introductory email to the professor at the same time, with a statement of research and your CV at least, and just giving them a heads up that you would like to discuss with them the possibility of a PhD or master supervision for a specific program. Let me just see if we have more questions that can be sort of packed together. So we just replied to the supervisor. So Brian is asking, if I had studied 1 year in the University of Quebec, which is a francophone university, do I still need an English or a French official language to apply to Ottawa? This is a relevant question because sometimes students ask the same thing. So if you have done some studies in English or in French, what is the threshold that you are eligible to not to be waived of the language proficiency test? I know that there are some criteria that can be taken into account. But for this, I would probably ask one of our representatives or the three of them to give us an idea of what is usually the criteria for someone that has not done all the studies in English, but might have done partial studies in English to be waived of the language proficiency tests.
From Ottawa here, our general policy for all of our studies is 2 years in an environment, in a country that speaks that language. So what that means is that even if you studied at an international school that was taught in English, you worked in English at school, but you were studying the school was located in Brazil, that does not necessarily count automatically. But if you say studied in the United States for 2 years, even if you didn't complete the program there, the 2 years you studied in an English institution, in an English-speaking environment, that would exempt you from the English. It's the same thing for French. If you studied in, say, France, or say here in Canada, in Quebec, you studied in French, in a French-speaking environment for 2 years, we could exempt you from the French language test requirement. This is the overall policy, but again, especially for graduate studies, there is some flexibility.
Thank you so much, Kyle. So one of the things that we get here very frequently is students from Brazil that have done the 1 year abroad Science Without Borders at the undergraduate level, asking if that will count as language proficiency for master programs. And like Kyle was saying, in most cases it doesn't, because it's not enough time being immersed in an English speaking environment that will enable you to automatically jump to a research program or to a more advanced program in English or in French. So some questions here that also relate to more like to coming to Canada. If you can bring your family with you, when you're studying at graduate level, Immigration Canada enables the student to bring family members, mainly the partner and children, if that's the case. Those people that are accompanying the student, they are entitled to work in Canada while the person is studying, and the children to attend school. However, you will be able to get more detailed information about that in the link that I will send you tomorrow. In the email that you will receive from us, you will also get the contact information from our 3 participants of today's webinar, so that you can contact them directly. Let me see, one last question just before wrapping up. Yes, another thing that I was asked that I remember is about the duration of bachelor degrees. Someone was asking that in his home country, his bachelor degree does not encompasses exactly the 4 years of a Canadian bachelor degree. He was mentioning, I think, 3 years and 8 months. And also, another thing that is somewhat similar to this is the average. Someone was mentioning that the average that he has is, I think, from Columbia, 3.68, and the average of the university was a 3.7. So in both of these cases, and from your experience, countries that for which the bachelor degrees is not exactly the 4 years, does this is this an impediment for the person to apply to a master program?
Maybe I can jump in first, if I may.
Go ahead, Colette. Yes.
In terms of us, I mean, yes, we do say we prefer the 4 year, but there's always exceptions. Sometimes what will happen if you haven't quite got enough of coursework or whatever, then we will ask you to do an additional couple of courses, and it may be when you're here, like before everyone starts the academic year, or you get to do it while you're still at home. So there are exceptions to the rule all the time, but our preference is the 4 year, particularly a 4 year if you've got some research background as well as part of your 4th year. It doesn't, 4 years doesn't actually have to mean for 12 months, 4 times 12 months.
Yes, thank you, Colette.
Hi, if I may.
Yes, Jasmine, go ahead.
So it will depend, unfortunately, on the exact transcript. If the person's on the line, were you on a trimester system, or is this getting a little too specific? So it seems very plausible that something that's just under 3 years, if it's under your own university system, equivalent to honors bachelor degree, we would consider as equivalent to a 4-year degree, but not in all cases. As Colette mentioned, there might be an opportunity to do a qualifying term, but I would very much encourage you to get in touch with yet again the department, because something that's only 2 months shy is probably equivalent, but it will depend on your exact transcript, I'm afraid.
So Kyle, in regards to Ottawa, is there anything different from what was mentioned?
No, that about encompasses what the policy is here as well.
Okay. So I would, we are now with 1 hour and a half of presentation. So some people had to exit because they had other commitments. However, I think it was important to take this extra time to talk about some questions that were asked. I would advise everyone to send me the questions if you have other questions that relate to different aspects or eventually to different Caldo universities. Next week we will have another webinar of this sort with another 4 Caldo universities. I will send you also the link in case you are interested in registering. And you can also ask the questions directly to our guests since you will receive their contact information. So I will thank you, Colette, Jasmine, and Kyle for taking the time to be with us today. Thank you so much. It was really great to hear from you. And
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. And to everyone that registered for today's presentation. Hopefully this was enlightening, or at least it helped clarifying some of the aspects. We know that this encompasses a lot of details and a lot of exceptions to the rules, so it can be a bit overwhelming at times. But that's why Caldo is here. We will be able to assist you with almost any question that you may have, from coming to Canada, scholarships in your home country, programs in our universities, looking for supervisors. We cover a wide array of topics. And we are always in touch with our representatives at universities for more specific questions. So enjoy the rest of the day, and hope to see you in future webinars. And if you have any question, please send us an email and we will be happy to reply. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I posted my email address in the chat function if anyone is interested in University of Ottawa, specifically asking questions.
Thank you, everyone.
Paolo, thanks very much for that. I appreciate you putting me in at the last minute.
You're welcome, Colette. It was very good to be able to have you here today with us. It's good to have everyone.
And I like to listen to what everyone else has to say, because yes, obviously I've got to up my ante here.
No, all good. Thank you so much.
Okay. See you later. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for having me. Have a good night.
Take care, Jasmine. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Paolo. I'll talk to you. I'm going to be out of the office for the next week or so, so I will, if you have any questions or anything, I won't necessarily be able to respond next week.
No, don't worry, Kyle. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much. I'll talk to you later.
You're welcome. Take care. Bye.
Bye.